Marfoogle TV live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Let's get right into it. North Korea's Kim watches missile test firings from country's first destroyer. We have covered a lot of different, new releases from North Korea, obviously because they are working with not only China, but with Russia. They, of course, gave Russia tens of thousands of their men. At least they did temporarily and still could be, right? And that had some sort of price tag on it. Of course, they have been getting all sorts of new gear, or at least that's what's been reported. Now, of course, they have a destroyer. It said that Wednesday, Kim Jong-un observed test firings of missiles from a recently launched destroyer, the first such warship of the North, and called the accelerating efforts to boost his Navy's nuclear attack capabilities, which is pretty crazy that Iran does not have nukes, but North Korea, crazy Kim, does. Again, they picture it with his daughter, and again, this is kind of crazy. Like, you guys know my opinion about the whole, the daughter coming out of absolutely nowhere, the sister coming absolutely out of nowhere, and I've wondered if any of these are really, really high grade, like government AI pictures, because why are they putting this in, this person in there? In 10 years from now, are we going to have some sort of AI three-letter agency leader put into play? Like, nobody can go to North Korea. We can't see this leader in person. We don't know. And now with AI deepfakes, it's like you could literally install a AI leader of a country like this and nobody would know the difference. But yeah, because it's so weird that the sister's talking in the first place. But after the surgery, it's you guys know. I won't beat a dead horse, but man, I think something absolutely wild is going on. The destroyer, again, a 5,000-ton destroyer equipped with what it called the most powerful weapon systems built for a Navy vessel, and I'm sure they're exaggerating, during Friday's launching ceremony at the western port of Nampo. Kim called the ship's construction, quote, a breakthrough in modernizing North Korea's naval forces. So I don't know how good this thing actually is, and the inside could be, cardboard cutouts of guns. But again, we'll see. And I'm hoping that that we won't see it anytime soon. All right, we're going to talk about this and so much more. In fact, we have a ton to go over. We're going to go over, obviously, what we just went over with news, concerns of martial law in America. There's so much more. Stick around. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf. Hey, welcome, Foogle fam. I see lots of really, really awesome people in the chat already. Thank you for being here. Thank your mods, dropping them in the chat for them. They are always keeping it peaceful and helping anybody with questions. So thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Ilea, nice to see. I don't know if you're here, actually, but I wanted to say thank you for sending me a couple more stories, including that... what's his name from, O'Keefe, and what the heck he just announced. I guess he's involved in something that might get him whacked. He said this one scares him and he's going to release something in a week. So I'm interested to see that. I did not know that until you texted me. So thank you for sending me that. All right, we're going to talk about the deal that was signed that continues the Russia and Ukraine war. It's definitely going to not put a pause to it. I'm sure Putin's not happy. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the huge developments that have just happened. All right, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we have, of course, the massive European power outage that happened. And of course, they said at first it was atmospheric disturbances. It sounded like a bunch of bull. We knew it was pretty much bull. And now they're saying it was. And this actually connects with what no one here yet said and what you said last week. And it sounds like your theory is coming true right now.
Let's
go over that.
Last night we talked about the potential of sabotage there, and that they were investigating sabotage with disturbances in UK at the same time. But the thing that no one here yet brought up was the fact that the power in Spain, they had just celebrated the fact that they were completely 100% renewable about 6 days before this event. Well, that renewable, which is made up of solar and wind and other things, the solar investment and maybe even the wind investment from that fact as well, was made with huge partnerships with China. Now, the connection that I made was that, hey, China's pushing the EU and pushing Europe to continue their relationship with China on trade and not to side with America on ours. And if China has backdoors into this technology, which they do in just about every other technology they make, that could have very well been their, shot across the bow or warning to Europe to, hey, play ball or it's going to get bad. Well, now what we have today is they're coming out and saying, yeah, it's clear that there were these solar sections of the system that caused a big chunk of the outage. So they identified 2 power generation loss incidences that were involving the solar plants. So that sort of actually comes right back and kind of validates the theory that we had last night.
Now, it says that power restored to half of Spain. So, a lot of people said that a lot of this was resolved. Is there actually still half of Spain still out of power? I mean, it sounded like a lot of articles were saying, oh, everything's fine now, but it doesn't sound like it is. So we may want to check on that. That's crazy. First of all,
it says all 6.4 million customers are back on.
Oh, okay. So that's good.
As of last night, yeah.
Okay, that's probably a connection to an older story then. So as far as this goes, this looks like another op, right? It looks like this very well could be China. I think it's crazy. Just yesterday or last night, you talked about the potential for that. No one here yet actually, sent you that stuff, basically saying that China provided most of the solar plant technology. And of course, all of the other things that we've covered in the last 6 months, which that they've basically ingrained themselves in all of these technological, areas, as far as all of the things they were selling and manufacturing with stuff they had monopolies on in their country, they have backdoors in. Heck, just a few months ago, we talked about how, like, the port here in Seattle, I think 90% of the cranes have a technology, a proprietary system that China could essentially, if they wanted to, turn it off. I mean, like, there's so many things like this. There are so many things that are here in the USA that they make that have very potential huge backdoors. And then they admitted that essentially why they hacked into our critical infrastructure and why they're in all of it. And they essentially admitted that a couple weeks ago. So it seems like step by step, we're getting a little bit more, but all of it is exactly what our community thought in the very first place. So we're completely on the right track, and it's like it's all happening. It's so weird that the next day, after all of these things that our community talks about, it ends up kind of being the case. Dex, go ahead.
Well, it also makes you wonder if this is something that China did or could have pulled off. We have talked, and we haven't spoken about this in a while, but we talked at length over the last couple of years about how much our own infrastructure has been infiltrated by China. They said they've been infiltrated throughout our telecoms, and potentially through all of our other infrastructure, and that they could be lying in wait to do something. So that is another part of this that we have to remember and realize, that as this trade war, or the war, if you want to call it, between the US and China happens to be trade at the moment, but it can easily escalate into things like sabotage, cyber events, or kinetic activity in the South China Sea, or even on our shores. Who knows? But just thinking about the fact that they have had such, we have talked quite a bit, and I say we as in America, authorities, officials, everyone has been saying how much they have infiltrated our own infrastructure.
Yeah, and pretty much every country that they have the Belt and Road Initiative, you have to think that they are putting and helping, construct cities, construct smart cities, do all of this. You would have to think that they're, of course, putting backdoors in all of those cities as well, essentially having leverage over these places. Imagine if they do anything that China doesn't like, not only do they have them financially binded, but they also have them technologically binded. So this is really, really freaky that, this was so many countries, allowed this to happen. And I mean, they should have caught this a long, long time ago. But that's the problem with tech. I mean, that's the problem with this technological advancement, the modernization of our civilization. There are pitfalls, there's downfalls to all of it. All right, and then we have the epicenter of the explosion at the Iranian port is tied to a charity overseen by the supreme leader. Now, the first thing I thought was, if this is something that was directly overseen by the Ayatollah, was this a potential hit? Now, we know it was an attack on something related to their nuclear sites. They've been talking about, like, well, we want to hit their nuclear sites. We want to hit nuclear sites. Israel has been saying that, they're eventually going to hit their nuclear sites, or they want to hit them, right? And then we see that this depot, this port was hit, and what ended up blowing up was fuel for ballistic missiles. So obviously this is tied together. But this was also a charity that was overseen by the actual supreme leader. One thought I have, and I haven't seen anywhere, was this a potential attempted hit? Were they trying to take out the supreme leader? Were they trying to do a regime change? I don't know. But again, this looks a whole lot like what happened at, what was the other big explosion? Beirut. Just like Beirut, it was on the port. And I do wonder if you guys ended up looking at the flight data. Was there anything suspicious around this day? Is there anything to say that they have other evidence to somebody else doing this? This looks like a attempted hit, or they are straight up, putting the first strike down on their nuclear sites. Dex, as far as the supreme leader goes, you said that he probably wouldn't visit a place like this. He wouldn't put his safety at risk like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a port, and it also got me thinking that maybe the port wasn't the target. If the target was ballistic missile fuel, maybe the target was where the fuel was supposed to go, where the ballistic missiles are stored. And if this fuel was to go into an underground bunker in a mountain somewhere where all of those missiles are, and then ignite, that could have been a much different story. So it could have been a premature event too.
Oh, you mean like this was not a missile strike of sorts, or something like that? Somebody had a timed explosive or something that was remote detonated or something, and it detonated.
Yeah, kind of like the pagers. They made the pager go off. They could have sabotaged these containers that were carrying the missile fuel, in hopes that the containers would make their way to the underground facilities where the missiles were, so they could fuel the missiles and then take out that facility.
Yeah, no, that's a super good point. I didn't think about that. With that, what was this? Was this headed somewhere else? Was this headed for a mountain? Were they trying to get kind of a Trojan horse into the bunker mountain, or the missile mountain, as I think they call it? Don't they call it missile mountain, or missile bunker, or whatever the heck they call it?
Yeah, it's full of missiles, though, that's for sure.
Yeah. Rochelle Cooley, thank you so much for gifting out 5 badges. That's awesome. And Lola Cafe says, happy belated birthday. Mine was yesterday. Also, well, happy birthday to you as well. And again, I hope that you had a good birthday. I had a really good dinner with my wife, and it was really awesome. And it was the first time in 4 or 5 years that we've been able to go out since we had our 2 little ones. So it was very, very cool. I mean, I guess I think it was 4 years ago, the last time we went out without our kids. So I love my kids, but sometimes you just want to have a date night, right? And then thank you guys. Thank you everybody for the support on my birthday. I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you. Can't tell you how much that I appreciate it. And seriously, thank you. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. As if you're new here, do remember all of the affiliates here. Nobody likes ads. I understand that. But these ads are very, very important because these are not picked by some third party, multi-channel network. We choose all of our affiliates. We have most of them for the last 5-6 years because we believe that these devices or these things are something that can get you through a disaster, help you survive a disaster, or get you, again, comfortable through one. This in particular, this is a device that can easily be wired into your car in about 10 minutes, and it will protect your car from not only an EMP strike, but also a Carrington-level event from the sun. If you've been watching every single night for years, then you all know this. But I would say to you guys, if you have been waiting on the fence, that sale is still there. We actually, Dex, have they gotten back to us on when this is going to end? Because it's very cool, it's still going, but I don't want to give them say it is and it's not.
It's got maybe a few more days left, so I wouldn't wait. Don't wait around. This is coming to an end. It was supposed to end a while back, and they extended it for the fam because demand was high and everybody wanted in on it. So yeah, because it is such a huge sale. They've never done anything this large.
Yeah, again, and this is something where they do events like this so they can get the name out there, so they can get devices, so then people have them, and then they tell their friends. With our grandfather discount, it's $50 off per device. That adds on to theirs. So in the case of if they say if you buy 4, you get $200 off. Well, that's $200 plus our $200. That's $400 off. So again, with 1, you get 20 plus 50, 2, 6, 120, 100 plus 60. Again, you can do the math on all of these. It's per device on ours, and it stacks. So utilize that if you've been waiting on the fence. But if you are new, again, they make them for cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, pretty much anything that runs. And I do believe that this will allow, especially us here in America, to be way more outfitted for a disaster like that. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. It goes to help our independent channel, which if people really knew how it was on the back end for us, then you would mostly understand there. So thank you guys. marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and let's see here. Let's go into Ukraine. So, Dex, we knew this was going to happen at some point because if they wanted to continue this war, they really needed the blessing of the United States. And now they've signed this deal that will help us out. You want to go over that?
Yeah, so the mineral deal is officially signed, apparently. So Ukraine signed the deal with the United States, giving us access to their rare minerals. And it continues to work on the efforts to, come up with a plan to end the war. But, that negotiation is just not moving along very well. To quote, I guess, what was coming out of Ukraine is that on behalf of the government of Ukraine, I signed the agreement on the establishment of a United States Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. So that's what it's called, a Reconstruction Investment Fund. Together with the United States, we're creating that fund that will attract global investment into our country. So what that really means and what they're trying to do here is they've created an opportunity for American companies, investors, money to flow in to do things like help reconstruction, but more specifically around mining, it would be to take U.S. money, not necessarily taxpayer money, but investment money, bring it in and create opportunities to mine the rare earth minerals that they have there, refine them potentially, or bring them here and refine them, one or the other. But then also the U.S. would be paid, meaning our taxpayers would get money back from that, as well as, of course, Ukraine would make money off of their minerals as well. And then, of course, these companies that are going to come in and spend their money to actually build in Ukraine to do this would also get paid and get rewarded. So it's an incentive for these companies to actually do that. So I think the goal was, at least from Trump's perspective, President Trump's perspective, was to help America get back the billions and billions we spent there, and not have the taxpayers continue to fund the war. So if that is how it pans out, that would be great. I don't know, but I think that's the intention. Now, the other side of that was that if America had interests in mines there, and we had American companies and American dollars and American potential citizens working there, it would make them less likely to be a target of Russia. Because if they were to target those locations, or if those Americans were harmed, it would then, become a much larger incident that would probably require America's response. So that was sort of an implied security. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to run a whole bunch of military over there to protect you. But by having American interest in there, they would be less likely to want to cause harm.
Now, somebody made a comment. We were just talking about this before the show. Says, I hope they're not bringing in BlackRock. Rick Rogers. Absolutely they are. And they are buying up most of, I believe they already own huge chunks. I heard a number like 30% of Ukraine has been sold, or that they own now 30% of Ukraine. I don't know if that is true. But if that massive company owns everything, I mean, literally everything, almost every event in our lives, especially since 2019, almost everything was connected to them. And again, like I said, I think, was it last show or this show, about the president? I have issues with the Panama Canal thing. They're like, well, we have a great company. Oh, BlackRock's going to do it. And then Ukraine, BlackRock's going to do it. I mean, do people realize how big that company is? It has as much money. It's a third in the line of countries, right? And you're like, well, wait, it's not a country. It's a company. Exactly. BlackRock has more money than all of the other countries. Besides, take China and the U.S. out of it, you have the GDP of all of the world's countries, all of them. BlackRock has more money than all of them combined. They're tied in with everything that we've had a problem with over the years. This is my opinion. And he's basically, from what I've seen, he's been involving them in a lot of stuff. Now, for people that are super fans, I've heard people say, well, maybe he just doesn't know about, the evil stuff that they may be doing. I don't know about that. And that's the problem. I'm so reserved right now because I just feel like we've been screwed our entire lives. We've been lied to our entire lives. And I really, really hope that there really is a light at the end of this tunnel. But time and time again, we have just been absolutely screwed. So again, this is something that really, really puts me off. Does it put you off? Let me know. And Fermi Paradox, I'm sorry to hear that. You said that you have a lot of pain now. I'm sorry about that. And I will pray for you, Fermi. Space River News, BlackRock was trying to buy the Panama Canal. Yes, I know. And they paused that, right? One of the few times I was kind of not, I guess I was agreeing with that in part. Dex, go ahead.
Well, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying this because I support BlackRock by any means, but just the 11.5 trillion or 11.584 trillion in assets under management. That's assets that they have brought in that they manage. It doesn't mean that they own, that they manage. Their value as a company is like 141 billion. But the reason, when I say assets they manage, it's like they bring in those funds to then turn around and invest those funds for people. So while they have access to those funds, they can control and wield those funds. It's not like they own $11.584 trillion of their own money. It's other people's money. It still comes with great power. So keep that in mind when you think about it.
Dex, they use that money, though.
I know. That's why BlackRock is one of the most obvious buyers when it comes to the Panama Canal or investments in Ukraine or any of that, because they have $11.584 trillion of your money, our money, all of these other companies' monies that have been pooled in to BlackRock to say, hey, manage that money for us and make us richer. And that's what they do. Well, and so they have access to 11.584 trillion. Who else has that kind of asset management available to buy and spend? That's why they're the obvious. Them, Vanguard, a couple others, but BlackRock being one of the biggest.
Shauna Rain said Vanguard, Plantier. Meanwhile, hold my beer, Marv. Well, definitely been lied to, says Kianito Warrior. Well, but that's the thing. They control that. Most of your retirement plans are probably through Vanguard or BlackRock or these things. That's the thing. This money goes in there. They can use that pot because so many parties have given them the money that they're not worried about this one party, because they can basically take that money and invest it and say, if you want all of your money back, oh well, we'll just pull it from over here and pull it over there. That company is just that is over the top. We can't even imagine that kind of money under the control of one company.
Yeah, it's massive.
Oh! And so somebody said Vanguard and all of this. Did you guys see that? What is his name? Carroll. What is the guy's name on Twitter? Dex, do you remember?
Ian Carroll.
Ian Carroll.
How they all own each other.
Yes. Did you see that? Did I send you that?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's like BlackRock owns everything, but everybody between Vanguard, BlackRock, and all the others,
they all own each other.
Well, yeah,
but
exactly.
But Vanguard, I believe he showed evidence, saying that there is a good chance that basically Vanguard somehow up the chain is actually owned by BlackRock. So it's like you would think that. And by the way, those companies all owned a chunk of the thing that, remember, they mandated for everybody. They required for everybody. If you didn't get it, then you lost your job or were no longer serving in the military. So yeah, like there's a lot of things that I'm just like question mark. Also, with the tech deal that's going on with the massive giants, the $600 billion deal with all of the tech giants, Dex, is BlackRock involved in making the chip companies, or what were you talking about with the chip?
No, that's
maker.
TSMC.
TSMC. Okay.
Taiwan Semiconductor. They're the ones with their own huge pockets, and they're building like a $50 billion plant. I think it was Arizona or New Mexico. I can't remember. I think it's Arizona. But yeah, they're building a $50 billion, not million, $50 billion plant here, and they're paying for it with cash, like, because they've got that kind of money.
Vanguard is BlackRock. Vanguard is private. Rock is public, Jay Walker says. Well, and that makes complete sense. Whatever they don't want out in the open, Vanguard. So, makes sense. But there was other companies too. He found, like, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 other companies that they basically all went right up the pyramid to them. Now, China plans, this is so crazy. So we have talked about some of the things that they've said or claimed over the years, including that they were going to build a space hotel, a 5-mile long structure in space, and that they were already starting on this thing, and that they were making this space hotel. Of course, I believe that U.S. has plans for this too, that small private companies do as well. I don't know if Elon Musk has something planned like that. But now China plans space traffic system for 100,000 satellites in low Earth orbit. And I was thinking that sounded wild because I thought Starlink didn't even have that many, but I guess they do. Dex, did you ever look up the number of how many satellites Starlink is planning to do when they're done? Because 100,000 seems really insane. But
yeah, I think there's about 7,100 up there now, but I can't remember what their actual number. I don't remember what their actual number was.
And they're planning 100,000. So if this goes into place, it sounds like a mesh grid around the planet. And I'm sorry, my mind also goes in my side theory that you guys know I have about possible, asteroid hitting Earth at some point that they know about. But I was thinking, man, what if this is some sort of defense mechanism for Earth, and they have a planetary defense headquarters now. They just put it in. It just started a couple months ago. So I just wonder if this is any kind of connection to that. But this is a traffic system for 100,000 planned satellites. So is this like red light, green light kind of thing? Or it's basically maps all of them?
Yeah, and Starlink is looking to have 42,000. And keep in mind, each one of their satellites only has a 5-year lifespan. So that's a lot of satellites that are going to be rotating in and out constantly to maintain a 42,000 mega constellation is what they wanted to build. So
Well,
yeah,
that means
42,000 for Starlink, 100,000 for China. I don't know
Whoa.
if China's building this,
but
for just theirs or for all.
Dex, think about that. 42,000 at 5-year lifespan. That means they've got to get another 33,000 up there in the next 5 years. Otherwise, the other ones will be, rotated out.
Yeah, and then
that's crazy.
And they've got to probably maintain a launching 10,000 a year.
So apparently China is planning on launching way more than that. I mean, if they're trying to get to 100,000 satellites, that's insanity. They want to get to 5,000 units per year by the end of 2025, which is insane. Indicates that they have 58 satellites. Get this. Industry data indicates that China has 58 satellite factories either in operation, under construction, or in the planning stages based on publicly available capacity estimates. The country's satellite output is expected to surpass 5,000 units per year. Now, this goes back to a story earlier this week. They actually say now China is claiming that they can actually spot our F-35s, our stealth jets, in the sky because some of their satellites, they can basically see the exhaust from the F-35. It has a very distinct signature. So now our stealth jets, if this is true, are no longer stealth. So, I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen if they do get this thing up and operational. They're going to have a lot of advantages by having this. And this is also a power move. They're basically doing everything in their playbook to try to surpass the United States. If we say 42,000, they're like, we're putting 100. They're basically doubling everything. And we've seen this before, too. There was even an article we covered about it that essentially everything that we've done, they've basically done a competing. Even data lines and underwater cables, they're like, oh, well, if you're doing an underwater cable, we're doing one, too. And we'll make ours $1 cheaper. And we don't have CIA or NSA listening in on us, right? But you have Xi Jinping listening to you. So yeah, it's obvious that something massive is in the works, and we're not gonna know until it's probably too late. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and to put in a little bit more perspective on the Starlink plans, that's one of the reasons, in addition to Mars, that Starship was supposed to come online, and why they've been testing it to get it operational, is it can launch about 100 satellites, where like the current Falcon 9 only launches about 22 of the version 2 satellites, where Starship could launch 50 or even 100 of them at a time. And the new V3s that are coming out, I think the Starship can launch about 60 of them at a time, which is, I guess, a bigger version of the Starlink.
Now, there's a video that's attached to this, and I believe it has something to do with this as well. It talks about flexible launches facilitating large-scale networking and operations. Once satellites are in orbit, ensuring collision prevention coordinated services among satellites. So this is what the system's going to do. But look at this video. It says fuel-free satellite launch, and it looks like a freaking potato gun. It looks like a t-shirt launcher. Do you see this? And it's called spin launch. So you can already tell exactly how this works. This thing spins up probably at absurd speeds and then launches it. And it says, is that possible? Personally, I would think no. Like, that looks stupid. But if that is possible, that's insane. Does it have wings on it so it glides right up and then goes up and starts floating? Like, what? So I will have to watch that later. This is over on the website. If you want to check out that video, it's over on marfooglenews.com. And just a reminder, if you want a source for any of the stories today, all of them are available over at marfooglenews.com. Full bibliography with every single article, tweet, video, picture, document is right there at your fingertips. While you're over there, make sure to go check out, of course, Friends. You've got the Friends page over there as well. Again, that is all available right there. So go support them as well. Go give them a subscribe. All right. And then geoengineers want Boeing 777s to dump sulfur into the sky, risking acid rain. So this is something that our community is already up in arms about, and I'm sure as more people find out about this, they're going to be like, are you kidding me? Essentially, they're saying that they're doing this to cool everything, right? Well, now they're saying that this could cause a potential massive disaster and start all sorts of things in a chain reaction. Dex, do you want to talk about the geoengineers and
well, yeah,
what some of the experts are saying?
The study was published. It openly admits that the method about putting this stuff up there, I'm trying to avoid some of the buzzwords because the platform doesn't really like this particular topic for some reason, but it would sharply increase the dangerous side effects like acid rain. Like that would all of a sudden become worse. It requires, 3 times more of the aerosol to achieve the same type of effect compared to other schemes that are out there that are in the that are up in that same area of the atmosphere. So yeah, this whole proposal that's been put together and they're trying to get greenlit has these obvious side effects to it that are pretty like on one hand it's trying to solve one problem, but it seems like it's creating a whole ton of other problems that are not all that good for us.
No, and with this, by the way, somebody made a comment too the last time we did this too, and they said, well, why can't you say certain things? Why can't you say this? And other channels do. First of all, other channels may have, and this is 2 of my guesses, other channels may have multi-channel networks that if something happens, they do have a connection. They have somebody they can physically talk to and fix things for them. We don't. But 2, I'm really skeptical about not only the channels that are allowed to flourish while talking about the most sensitive things that we even put one of the keywords in our title and we're a week off the platform. I'm very skeptical about channels that can do that and grow, not only grow, but grow massively and talk about all of these things. And I'm thinking, personally, I'm looking at these and I'm going, what's the deal here? Like, how are they allowed to talk about all of this? And you look deeper and you're like, well that's kind of weird. So, and then the things that we do cover like this, right? If that is something that can flourish on something like that, it makes me wonder about it. Like, is this the stuff that we're meant to be theorizing about, right? And I know that this is already something we all have known for a long time. But it's like, is this meant to keep all of our brains turning and going, they're doing this and this and this? Well, over here, companies like we just talked about are basically gobbling up the world and things are happening. They're going to change everything, get rid of cash, make sure everybody is tracked and traced. Everybody is listened to. Everybody has a bank account. Everybody has this. It's like, what is the distraction? What is not? In our community, I'm glad over the last couple of years, it's really calmed down. But there was probably a time 5-6 years ago where every single person was like, distraction. This is a distraction. Everything's a distraction. Now people are realizing after CV, after all of that went down, that anything that could have been put out, anything that could be put out in an article very well could happen, right? And they have put out some crazy articles. In this case, I get really concerned about this kind of stuff. It reminds me of another kind of crazy plan they had. They were going to drill down into Yellowstone and try to cool Yellowstone to stop it from erupting. NASA has a plan where they're going to drill down and shoot cold water into it. And then at the same time as cooling Yellowstone, which again, experts say that could potentially trigger it to go off, they would also say, oh, we can also make a buck on this, have that water that's cooled go down and it's going to superheat, come up, and then use that superheated water to create power. And I'm like, the ideas like this, you would think somebody would go, okay, well, the risk far outweighs any kind of benefits or profits. But these companies, they're like, oh, well, it's okay. I don't live anywhere near it. And they're okay with that. If Yellowstone goes off, we're missing a third of our country and possibly a nuclear winter around our planet, and plants won't grow for a year, right? So yeah, I don't think that's a good plan. Just, that's me. With this, it's like, oh, what's the risk? Acid rain. Are these like monkeys deciding this? Do we have AI deciding this? Because I'm sure they won't mind, right? The super AGI, ASI, freaking AI, they won't care if there's acid rain. They're like, we like it. We love the taste of it. We'll see the bots, putting their tongue out and going, oh, yummy. But we won't. And then scientists issued dire warning after making frightening discovery in the Atlantic Ocean, sudden wide-reaching impacts. So this is really, really freaky. And my cousin, I want to have him on too, because he has made some discovery. He's actually done a kind of a loop of news as well, talking about some of the things he's discovered as a diver. He's at the center of a kind of a bunch of new discoveries too. And there's a lot of things going on in our oceans. This worries me too, far more than any temperature thing, right? Because there are evidences that I have seen, and that there's people like my cousin that are actually documenting underneath the water. The waters have had some really weird stuff. Fish and animals doing very odd things, odd migration patterns, spinning in circles for hours and hours or days and days. Just animals getting thrown way off, ending hundreds and hundreds of miles away from where they should be, or beached up, extinctions of animals, of sea animals. And there's a lot of things going on, and it's like, if any of these things break down, or if we lose all of our bees, are we going to come up with a drone bee situation to fix the problem? Like, there's a lot of these things that one little thing can screw up the entire system. It's a very fragile system, even though it's one of the toughest systems out there. Dex, with this, what are they talking about, and what are they suggesting?
Okay, so for sure, this is one of those change kind of events. So it's, you got to put that hat on and understand that there's a narrative that they're trying to push alongside this. But you also have to understand what it is they're talking about, just so that if there is some semblance of possibility here, what does it mean? So there's this thing called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or the AMOC, which is the ocean current system in the Atlantic. And it, basically is the current of, say, the cold water from the north that flows down, say, into the tropics, and then goes back around and flows back up to the north. And it brings cold water down, warm water back up. And it's, a constant cycle. And it basically is what balances, at least in the northern hemisphere and mostly around us, and even in Europe for that matter, the climate that we do have, like, the seasons and stuff like that, and the amount of rain that we normally get, et cetera. Well, if that AMOC, or that current system, just were to stop and collapse and no longer flow in the direction it's doing, or do what it does, it would have a massive shift in, basically what happens to, say, storms in America. What would happen to, areas that are typically tropical and wet, and all of a sudden becoming dry and desert, and areas that are, dry and desert, all of a sudden becoming very wet, because everything would shift and change. And what they're suggesting is that there's this other flow of fresh water in the north from ice melt that could cause that to decline or degrade or even completely collapse. And they're worried about whether or not that's happening at a rapid pace. There's been some studies that have come out and said this is a slow thing. It's going to take a long time, and like it's not in our lifetime, but it's in our grandchildren's lifetime we need to worry about. And others have sort of said, well, we're not really sure if it's happening faster or not, but if it does happen, it can have a huge shift. And then there's a lot of other things that go on that you got to consider, like pole shifts and other stuff that we've talked about and other people have looked into, and the fact that even the magnetic poles are shifting around, and what is that, how does that play in? And that's not even talked about in here, but those types of events can also have a major shift in where, say, it is cold and where it's not, and where it's wet and where it's dry. And those things can also happen. They do happen in history, and they can, we don't know exactly when it's going to happen next, but a lot of signs point that things have been shifting. So that's the story. I'm trying not to get too much into, if you're into the whole chain, the whole, weather change thing versus not, that's certainly an angle that's in here, but just understanding what the actual mechanics of the Atlantic Ocean are and what they're talking about potentially stopping and how that could affect everybody is kind of fascinating.
Cheryl Lau says, yeah, they asked for the plants, then Taiwan delivered. Were they not supposed to do that? No, I don't think. I think people were surprised. A lot of people asked questions on how it was going so fast. Usually bureaucratic systems and permits and things like that are very slow. What the president, I believe, was saying, I believe it was the president that said essentially that the groups and TMMC, they have the money. They have $50 billion. They can make things go super quick because they're not trying to finance and get all these different investors. They've got the cash, the money to do it. So a lot of people were actually wondering how it was going so fast. Like, they've already cleared the land. They've already done all of that. Let's see here. Elohim, Rick Rogers, the poles are shifting around as we speak. Yeah, it is crazy to see. A couple years ago when we saw one of those big shifts, it shifted towards Siberia. It's a very fascinating subject as far as the poles. And for years, a lot of our community has believed that the shifting of the poles is screwing things up. Jake said, "You dude, this is literally the plot from the movie The Day After Tomorrow." Well, The Day After Tomorrow, yeah, I actually watched the DVD extras or whatever back. I loved that movie way 12 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever that came out. That movie, they had expert consultants, and that was before a lot of this was mainstream. Of course, they talked about the Great Change and all of that back then, 10 years before that even. But that was before a lot of people were pushing it. And that movie had consultants basically go, what do you believe could happen in the future? And that's how they did that movie. So yeah, kind of crazy.
Yeah, and it's also based on the 1999 book, The Coming Global Superstorm by Art Bell.
Yeah, and they altered that story. They made it current. It's kind of like how Obama's film company took what is that the Netflix movie that we did a breakdown on? Gosh, there's so many now. Not How It Ends, but the other one. Oh, Leave the World Behind. And he tweaked the book, because I've read the book, it's different. He tweaked the book with his knowledge as a former president of what he believes would really happen, some of the things in that movie, and that's even creepier. So yeah, that movie, people were like, oh, it's predictive programming. Well, it's actually a very accurate, according to the experts now, of what they thought was going to happen or what they were planning on doing. Who knows? But yeah, that's a very fascinating movie, because a lot of that stuff is now being talked about now. Some people have done recent YouTube breakdowns on that movie, and some of the things they said in that movie are now being said now. Kind of crazy. Let's see. Miss that man, Art Bell. Rest in peace. Yeah, a lot of people do. Longtooth, nice to see you. Kathy Paina, nice to see you from Hawaii. Aloha. And then Jake Malone, The Art of Lesser Magic and Predictive Programming. I do believe in predictive programming, and I believe that there's a total reason and a complete benefit to predictive programming to the people that run the planet. So, but you can do your own research on that and why it would be beneficial. But before we move on, let's go over, make sure to go check out Jase. If you've got food and water set, you've got a whole plant, your pantries are full, then I would say next on the list would be medicines. Again, this is a very easy service. You go and talk to a board-certified doctor through a quick telehealth appointment through your phone or on your tablet or on your computer from the comfort of your couch. You can get yourself what's called the Jase case, which is a kit with all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics. Again, not only does that have antibiotics, but you can also get add-ons. There's an add-on list. Of course, you can throw in albuterol and that stuff that Joe Rogan was taking that CNN lied about him being friends with horses. So again, there's lots of things on there that you can add on. Make sure to go check out the list. If you want more of a permanent solution or of a bigger thing, you're worried about your actual regular prescription meds, there's also called Jase Daily. That's a 12-month extended supply of your regular prescription meds. This is a great service. You get a discount through us, and you help support our independent channel at the same time. Go to marfuglenews.com/Jase and do not miss out on the discount. Use the code MARF, M-A-R-F. Thank you guys for doing so. Again, having antibiotics on hand, if anything happens where you don't have access to a hospital or to, again, a pharmacy. So cyber attacks could knock them out, or heck, if you're on the West Coast, think about how they just said that 1,100 miles of roads will be untravelable after the Cascadia subduction zone. You're not even going to be able to get across town. North and south is going to be completely screwed. All bridges will collapse on a 9.0. I think they said like 98% of the bridges in that zone from here to here are all less than fair, and they're all like cracked and needing fixed. It's pretty bad. Or need to be retrofitted. So yeah, it's pretty bad. Go check it out, marfuglenews.com/Jase. And then this new order. So I believe that this will actually gain a lot of traction. Obviously, the left media is using this. That anybody that's anti this president is going to go after this and fully try to, ingrain themselves in this theory. But this order is essentially giving military gear to the police. I actually do not agree with it as well. But is it an exaggeration of what he's doing? What is the goal here? What is the main benefits? Is there anything that could really affect it long term? Is he trying to take a bite out of crime? Or is he preparing for something? People are worried that they're preparing for martial law. Martial law, of course, he could make an executive order, call a national emergency, use the emergency system that goes to all of our phones and say, we're clearing house, what people fear. There's a lot of our community that believe that they're going to arrest a bunch of people. Who knows? But there's a lot of theories floating around about this, and not everybody agrees with this. Even if they do love the president, they do not love this decision. Dex, this is a very specific executive order, and it's giving a lot of military gear to police.
Well, yeah, and it's beyond just that. So he didn't say and specify exactly what gear. And matter of fact, what he was doing is telling Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi that they needed to, and other agencies needed to come up with a plan and increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in the local jurisdictions. So, and they have 90 days to do so. Media like Newsweek is, which is one of the people is talking about this, is saying, hey, this is, sparking fears of a potential martial law. Maybe that's because it's an anti-Trump story, or maybe there is something to that, right? Specifically, though, in the past, when the military has given gear, it's typically like armored vehicles, tactical equipment, surveillance technology, things like that. But none of that is specified in here. They do specify, or he did say that this was, titled under strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens, which is the warm, fuzzy feel good, right? That's what you want. Well, we want to protect everybody. Within 90 days of the day of the order, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel. I don't know what they mean by personnel specifically, can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime. So anytime you think about expanding your local law enforcement with military capabilities or even personnel or things like that, I know a lot of people jump to that notion of, is it the militarization of the police? Now, on one hand, would having all of our law enforcement expanded our military be needed because we're about to go to war, or would it be needed because we're about to have a major internal conflict, or is it needed because there's about to be a major event go down with a whole bunch of sleepers and they need more manpower on the streets dealing with stuff in urban environments? I don't know. Or is it, because he wants to be the third term and he's going to use the police to do that? I don't know. I'm not. It runs all the different spectrums.
Now, this could be rapidly deployable checkpoints to police departments. This could be, radioactive detection. This could be surveillance equipment. This could be drones. And again, it says in other agency heads, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, and Hegsa, they said, quote, to increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions within 90 days. So that actually kind of, does that give that? Are they saying within 90 days this is going to start happening?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's what I said. Absolutely.
So everybody needs to get at least a basic kind of prep, because here's what I think. I think we're going to war with China. I think that he is preparing for this. And when you look at any country, we've talked about this. We've talked about certain countries. We've looked at the military numbers of certain countries. We found that there was a couple Middle East countries that had, huge amount of soldiers. But when you break it down, it was like, oh, well, you've got this many soldiers, but then you've got a huge other amount of soldiers that were militia that are this, and then the local police, which they consider they can basically just make them military right off the bat. That would be something too. This is giving more domestic power to the military by giving the military to the domestic power. I disagree with a lot of this, but I believe with the order to seal our border and to repel invasions, with the Golden Dome, with the trying to get Greenland right now, which is a very, very strategic thing to defend against, very specifically from China and Iran. I think that this might be because they are expecting something massive to go down. Like Dex said, and we've said many times, we've talked about how many people came over in the last 4 years, how many Chinese nationals, military-age males came over, how many properties were bought right next to the military bases. This really gives me the creeps, because I believe that something's being set up for China, and there's a decoupling going on. It's crazy. I went through all of the different things I've talked about for years. I spent an hour and a half going through Grok and trying to have Grok debunk with data and with data points. By the end of it, Grok was agreeing. He's like, you might actually be onto something here. We might have an invasion incoming, right? And found different studies that none of the media is covering. There's studies believing that they are actually setting up for this. So this is more confirmation in my head that we're about to see some massive, massive event. That's what I think it is. I'm going to go with my gut on this one. And who knows, maybe it will age horribly. And it's totally for the cartels. In fact, Sparky's Run says it's to take out the cartels and get the little ones out of the wrong hands. They know where the little ones are now. That very well could be. I've heard so many different opinions about the cartels, that the cartels are a distraction, this and that. Personally, I think the cartels are pretty bad. And I think the cartels are connected with 3-letter agencies and possibly other countries' 3-letter agencies or 6-letter agencies So I do think that they might be a part of a bigger thing and even could be part of what I was just talking about. I've said many times, I don't know if we're going to be seeing paratroopers drop in from China because they're already here. It would be a tap on the shoulder and saying, hey, I'm back here, buddy. All right. And then Mary Gunn, thank you. Shauna Reed, thank you. Red Dawn much? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hopkinson, hey, haven't seen you for a second. And then Candle, WizGen, thank you for being here. And Lori D, thank you. And then before anything else, make sure to go check out Grid Down, especially right now. If you guys don't know, the Grid Down, as far as the Bug Out XP, this thing is absolutely awesome. I'm going to be doing a review on this because it is absolutely, now, my go-to solar generator. I would tell anybody to do this. And again, I still believe in the other generators that I have, but this one is a whole different ball game because it's high capacity. It's again, it can actually power a lot higher power items as well with a 6,000 capacity, 3,000 again, or I'm sorry, 6,000 peak, 3,000 of course running. So again, make sure to go check this out. Again, you can actually get the main unit at 1.61 kilowatt hours. That's 1,600 kilowatt hours. Or you can end up getting just 1 XP and you will actually have 4.29 hours. That's over 4,000 kilowatt hours. That's going to run a long time. I have not even had to use the XP, and I've had to use these a bunch now. Right now, mine is powering a bunch of stuff, and it has been for a week, and it's still at 64%. So yeah, like these things are absolutely awesome. Plus, I've had to take this out of the studio, and we've used this at least 3 times. We just used it on our project the other day. We powered and charged absolutely everything. We had lights going and everything else on Thursday and Friday. So again, this thing is absolutely badass. Go check it out. And it's solar. And here's the other thing. To a lot of you that are going and getting an Amazon generator, a lot of those are made in China. We've been talking about this. What just happened in Spain? Like, what are they saying? Oh, solar panels, this happened. You don't want that to happen to your solar generator. You don't want to go in an emergency, something big happens, and then your solar generator fails. That's why we recommend this one. We fully believe that this is going to back you up. You should also, if you can, have both gas and solar. But this means you have unlimited power. You pair this with solar panels, ones without back doors in them, and you're good. As long as the sun comes up every day, you are good. If we're in a nuclear winter with clouds over us, then yeah, probably won't do too much good. But as long as the sun's out, you are going to have power. And this is going to store it, and it's going to be ready for when you do need power. You can also charge this faster than I've ever seen. Again, 2.3 hours to charge the unit. That's insane. That's from the wall, and then you have a full 1.61 kilowatt hours on the unit. 4 hours to charge the whole thing with the XP. So go check it out, marfooglenews.com/bugout, and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, I will put that review out as soon as it comes out. All right, marfooglenews.com/bugout. And I'm going to be honest, but there's not very many negatives to this. I really can't think of. The only negative I can think of is not everybody is going to be able to really carry this long distances, but it's made for that too. So yeah, it's big and heavy, but it's actually lighter than most would be because of the new technology. All right, marfooglenews.com/bugout, and make sure to use the code MARF. All right. There are so many awesome people in the chat. Thank you, Lola Cafe. Thank you. Ashley RC3, thank you for joining as a member today. Tammy Lee says, hi, everyone. Hey, much love. Thank you so much. Tammy Lee, Trilicit, thank you for being a member for 15 months. Ashley, again, thank you for becoming a member. Inquiring Minds, thank you. The support, M. St. G, thank you, guys. Thank you, Miss Dragon. 23 months, Miss Dragon just hit. Yesterday. And then Joseph Decker, right guard, has subscribed. Thank you so much. Bill has subscribed. Stockton Sessions just subscribed. So thank you. And welcome to the fam. You guys have a wonderful night. And Candy says, we've been invaded already. I believe that too. Have a good night, guys. Dex, thank you so much for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And it is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.